Action. Welcome, everyone. We're here to do another fireside chat, and today we're going to talk about Lyra. I'm joined by the two core contributors, or the author and the core contributor to Lyra. It's the JavaScript-based full-text search engine. Really excited about the talk. Be sure to stick around until the end of the video because I'm going to ask them a little bit about the community, how people can get involved, and if there's any surprises coming in Lyra. So we're going to also talk, of course, about what is Lyra and how did it come about. So be sure to stick around to the end of the video, and thanks for joining us. Let's do it. Action. So we're going to talk about Lyra today. Super excited to be joined by Paolo Insogna and Michele Riva. Michele is the author of Lyra, and Paolo is the supporting contributor to Lyra. Maybe just real quick for those who are watching who don't know us, Michele, just in a few seconds, who are you and why are we here talking about Lyra?
Yeah, hello everyone. I'm Michele. I work as a staff engineer at Nearform, and right now I'm committed to Lyra, which is something we will be discussing during the episode, so I won't spoil anything right now. But yeah, I'm the author, and I can't wait for talking about how it started and the direction we're gonna take with that product.
Awesome. Paulo Insogna, I think people, if they've been watching our videos, they already know you, but just for those who are just jumping in, little intro.
Hello, folks. I'm Paolo. I'm also a staff DX engineer at Nearform. I'm sorry if I'm missing the Fireside today, but I couldn't find it. So, all good. And today we're going to talk about Lyra Search, which is going to be awesome. So, enjoy. I'm not spoiling anything as well. So, back to you, Cody.
And yeah, I'm Cody Zuschlag. I'm a staff developer relations engineer at Nearform, and I love talking about technology. Lyra, I've made a couple small contributions myself, so super excited to be here to have everyone here for this fireside. So the big question, what is Lyra?
Yeah, you made some great contributions in a day where I said, okay, this is my last commit. This is my last release. I'm going to go on vacation for 2 weeks. And I broke everything. So thank you, Cody.
I saved your vacation.
I want to publicly thank you about that because it's you saved me. So and the whole community. So it's all thanks to you. Let's be honest.
I'll take credit where what I can.
So yeah, going back on what Lyra is. So Lyra, it's a full text search engine capable of running wherever JavaScript runs because it's built entirely in TypeScript with zero dependencies, and it makes suitable for running on cloud functions, edge networks, browsers, React Native. So wherever you have a JavaScript runtime, you can basically run full text search at an incredible speed, and that's because eventually when we were developing the core of Lyra, and we will get there, we discovered that there is no slow programming language. There is just bad algorithm and data structure design, and that's something I learned thanks to Lyra when we were benchmarking in the area of microseconds for document retrievals. So it's really fascinating and interesting. Yeah, I can't wait to discuss any further about that.
Yeah, we'll get into some details. So one more question to you, Michele, would be like how did Lyra come into existence? Like what popped into your head one day? Like I'm going to make a full text search engine.
Yeah, first of all, I want to say that Elasticsearch is my favorite open source software ever. So I've always wanted to understand how it was possible for a database to be that performant while having millions and millions of records and still being able to retrieve documents in a matter of milliseconds. So I've always been fascinated about full text search algorithms, and I wanted to give a talk at lead. We are developers in Berlin, the biggest developers conference worldwide, 8,000 developers all together to talk about technology, etc. I wanted to give a talk about algorithms and data structures, and that was the perfect opportunity for me to study a bit more about full text search because it's a great combination of algorithms, data structures, and natural language processing, which is also something I truly care about. So it was super good for me to have this opportunity, and I started by creating a very tiny, a small application that later became Lyra. So that's how it started.
Was this like a proof of concept at that point, or?
Yeah, it was a beta. So I released like the version 001 dash beta 01 right the day before talking at the event, and it was very tiny, self-contained, but it was working pretty fine. So that's how it started.
Wow, I love this story. Going to going to a conference and presenting a talk like I'm going to create something new, and then just watching something magic happen, which I think we're going to talk about in just a second. Now, Paulo, you're here too. So how did you get involved in Lyra? Because I know you've been around Lyra from almost the beginning. So
Pretty much from the day of this talk in Berlin. Actually, the day after the day is talk in Berlin, because actually it happened that I was also there in Berlin for another conference, totally unrelated. And of course, we met and we spent the day together. And all of a sudden, he told me, "Oh, I have the problem about serializing and getting to disk and retrieving in a fast way." And say, "I mean, let's solve it. Hold my beer, let's solve it, right?" So what happened? We rented a co-working space in an hotel. We sat there for the entire morning and half of the afternoon, and we solved it. So Lyra was able now to run on the edge without making a breeze, and was still fast and very effective. And basically in one day we solved one long-lasting problem of this area. So it was just amazing. The lesson learned from this is that never met in person because we make damages. That's what we learned from that encounter. So that's what happened.
oh, I love that. Just the magic, and it was just like feels like feels like old time couple of hackers in a back room. Like let's create something cool. Like I feel like we're gonna be watching a movie about this in 10 or 15 years.
Well, we will.
Michele, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, no, I like the way that I came. I was in the hotel hall with Paolo, and I looked at him and said, "Paolo, we need that to run on Edge networks. I have no idea how to do that." And he looked at me and said, "Michele, hold my beer. That's a true story. Hold my beer."
Yeah, I mean, it's not made up here.
So 4 hours later,
Yes.
Was it the morning or the afternoon?
No, I mean, the bill was the day earlier, but we met the day after and saying, "Oh, let's
4 hours
back."
later, we had it.
Okay, that was the evening. It was the day after. Okay,
No, no, no. Of course, I didn't have a beer at 9 a.m. in the morning, but it was the day before. The day after, we say, "You know what? Let's solve this thing finally, once for all."
And it's incredible because in like 4 hours he solved a problem that I couldn't solve in the past 2 days. So I was blown away, and I said, "Okay, Paolo, you know what? You're gonna join as a core contributor from now on because we are gonna develop something very special and something very new." And that's where we are heading now. And I guess we are doing something that it's working, and that's really exciting because we are kind of doing a paradigm shift in the full text search industry right now, by providing many different differences between what Lyra can provide and what other JavaScript-based full text search engines provides, or Java-based ones such as I don't know, Solar, Elastic, etc. So we're really doing something different right now.
okay. Well, that seems like a perfect time to ask then. So why is Lyra important to the ecosystem, to the community? Yeah, what makes Lyra special?
Well, it's just that it's very lightweight. It has no external dependencies, and I asked also to sponsorize it as a Node contributor, Node core member, right? Is primarily running on Node, but it can run on Dino, can run on Ban. The idea is that it's written in TypeScript, of course, compiled to JavaScript at runtime, and it's very fast. It can compare to other languages because the idea is that when you make the right choices, the languages doesn't matter. So Michele made very nice choices at the very beginning in the implementation stage. We solved few missing pieces, and now we have something that demonstrates, as is already said, that is not the environment, is the algorithm or the person behind the algorithm, which are very, very important.
Yeah, definitely. And one thing I'd like to add is that basically Lyra, it's incredibly modular. So it's not a kind of software such as, let's say, Solar, where you have to install a virtual machine, you have to install the software, you have to take care of, I don't know, sharding or clustering, whatever. With Lyra, you basically have functions. So if you give me an object that follows the, let's say, the Lyra protocol, then I am able to traverse this object, which is basically a tree, and provide you search results in a very efficient way. And that's because we made the decision of having many different little functions. when we started Lyra, it was a big class, big JavaScript class, for example. Then Paolo decoupled every single function. And right now, if you have a cloud function, let's say, where you have a strong limitation on, let's say, Cloudflare workers, you have 1 MB of data of code as a limit, you can import just the search function and then get the data, search through the data, and reply. So it's modular, it's easy to maintain, it's easy to extend, it's easy to replace individual functions because they have no dependency on other functions. So it's really different from whatever we saw in other contexts. And that's also possibly because of, I don't know, my passion and also Paolo's passion in functional programming. Maybe, I don't know if you're really passionate about that, Paolo. I definitely am.
Not in a formal way. It's just that I don't like classes. Let's put it this way.
Okay. So
Good at writing JavaScript, no classes.
that's a good match, because I don't like them either. So um but yeah, we changed the approach, and so that it has some benefits. It's not functional by any mean, so it's total imperative code. If you go in the V8 documentation, it says you have to write JavaScript as you were writing C to keep the performances up and running. So I do totally agree with that statement, even if your code it's not the prettier you will see out there, the prettiest. But of course, we want to make something fast that can compete with other libraries. So that's what we're gonna do and what we need to do.
Well, I think this is amazing because working at Nearform, like Node.js, JavaScript, like in the DNA of Nearform. They're part of the OpenJS Foundation, and when people who are hesitant to like make that leap, like let's do something in JavaScript, let's go to Node.js, and maybe they're reading critiques and think, oh, I'll never get the performance possible that I can in name your other language, programming language or environment. And here you're here saying, no, it's the algorithm, it's the way that you write the code, it's the passion for the algorithm that can make it performant. So I just love that example of like, here's something super performant written in TypeScript. I think that's just so amazing, and yeah, makes me happy to hear stories like that. So we got a couple new releases in the last couple of weeks, if I'm not mistaken. Just real quick, what's some of the new features that we see now?
Yeah, so we made some great releases, right? And we are heading to a new one, which will include support for WebAssembly, for example, because it's true that the algorithm it's what makes the difference, but sometimes you just hit a wall, and that's maybe because of just-in-time compilation. It's maybe because of cold starts. So there are a number of things that when you're working in the microseconds area, you can't optimize more than that. And it's not a problem per se, but might be a problem with very large data sets. So if you have a huge data sets with gigabytes of data, maybe a microsecond for every single document makes the difference. So we're giving support just in case for WebAssembly with the newest releases. Also thanks to our contributors, because it's not something that was born from us as core contributors. And that's something I love, because the latest releases are releases that have been made by people that are not working directly with us. So that's cool because there's a community around it, and that's beautiful. We gave support in the latest release for semi-schemaless documents indexing, so you don't have to define a full schema anymore. You can throw stuff at Lyra, and Lyra will index it, no problem. We gave support for document ranking, so that we make sure that the search term will always match the most relevant results in the returning document array of Lyra. So yeah, we are doing a lot to provide the best user experience and developer experience possible when it comes to creating full text search experiences.
Oh, it's awesome. And Paulo, I know there's some news in the latest release around deployments and where Lyra can run.
Yeah, absolutely. So Lyra is an accompanying tool which is called Nebula, which only takes care of basically bundling Lyra with your dataset and deploying on whatever you want. And right now, we were already supporting Cloudflare workers with optional usage of R2 or KV namespaces. Now we're also supporting AWS Lambda with Docker and S3 optional for storing your data if you want. So if you have a huge data set that cannot be bundled with Lambda, you can store on S3 and Lyra will take care of fetching at runtime if you want. So it's totally optional. We also have other cloud providers on the list, and I'm also asking this to the community. If you have any cloud providers that you want us to test on, either you can first of all provide the PR if you want, or give a cloud provider an HTTP API, and we're gonna make the trick.
Ooh, I love that. Well, so on that note, community, how do people get involved? Like what if I'm here watching this video and I'm saying, wow, this sounds really cool. It's kind of a beginning of a new project. I want to get involved in something open source that could really have a real impact on everybody, on yourself, your career, for people using it, on the community. How can they get involved with Lyra?
How did you do that? Because you also did that, right? Fixing all Michele's.
Yeah, I know. I'm asking a trick questions. You're right.
Oh, that's the usual stuff. But everything is public on GitHub. So you just join.
Yep. Go to GitHub, download the code, read the issues. But
Yeah, first of all, I always make sure that there are enough good first issues to be opened on the repository. So whoever wants to start contributing to open source, there are good first issues also for juniors, let's say that, so that everyone can start contributing. One other thing to consider, please follow at Lyra underscore search on Twitter. So this is where we will publish stuff that can be done on Lyra. Also, we have a Slack channel. So if you go on the repository, there is an invitation link for the Slack channel, and this is where you can keep in touch with us, core contributors and maintainers. But also, one thing that people always told us is that they find themselves comfortable in working with Lyra because the algorithms and data structures we choose are very, let's say, yeah, are popular. So there is a lot of literature on how to do, I don't know, radix tree. How does it work? There is a lot of literature, YouTube videos, etc. about that. But also, it's a combination of very standards way to operate on data, so it's really easy to understand what's going on and to contribute, and that's something that people always told us and that I am particularly proud about because it makes contribution accessible. So don't be scared. If you find yourself stuck, please come to Slack, and me and Paolo, I and Paolo, we will be there to support you and help you get into open source.
The same, I will also like to ask to add the thing is that the same holds for Nebula. On Nebula, we chose not to use any SDK from cloud provider, so it's directly their API, which also makes it easier to go on Nebula, say how is the code working, two functions, bundle and deploy. That's it. Load of functions. That's pretty much it.
love it. Love the architecture. Yeah, that's amazing because, like you said, just if you're a first time contributor, if you're just trying to get your hands dirty with code, there's places for you. But also love the fact that you've like implemented kind of classical data structures and algorithms. So maybe someone who's like doing a computer science degree and they're learning about those data structures and those different algorithms, like what a cool way to like apply that to something useful right away. Like, yeah, I love that. So, last question before we wrap this up. What's next? Like, what's the future? Give us a little teaser, like a little secret, something. I'm going to ask you both. Start with Paulo. What's the give me something special? What are you working on, or can you tell us? Is there something that we? As I know you like to make surprises, so
Yeah, we love to make surprises, so no spoilers here. I mean, I can say more cloud providers on Nebula. That's all I can tell for now.
okay, cool. Well, that's something to look forward to. And Michele, is there anything we can look forward to?
Yeah, I can only say that there is a lot going on, and first of all, uh, before getting there, I would like to hear from the community. So this is gonna be an open source and community driven project. So we are totally open to suggestions and use cases. If you want to integrate Lyra, for example, I'll be there to support you integrate it in your project, so that we can understand if we need to change something about it. We have a number of plugins to be developed, for example. That's something I can say, so that you can use it easily with, I don't know, React, Vue, Docusaurus, maybe. We have a lot of stuff going on. Lyra, it's becoming every day bigger and bigger in its ecosystem. And but this is where, before saying this is where we're going, this is where I'd like to ask people, do you agree with the vision that we have? Do you have something to complain about? Is there something we can improve before proceeding with creating new features, new plugins, etc.? Is there any pain point that you want us to solve? So of course we have plans, and Nearform is supporting us in a beautiful way in doing that, just like Nearform always supports open source software. So we're really grateful and thankful for that. but at a certain point, we want to hear from the community. So we will be driven by the feedbacks that we're going to receive.
Love that. Community first. So thank you both, Michele, Paolo. This was really informative. I guess we both have to mention this because we all work at Nearform. We do professional services, but if you're watching this video, you know that Nearform, like open source, JavaScript, like is the DNA of Nearform. So it's such a great place to work. Feel really privileged to be here talking to you about this, and so thankful that they're supporting the work that you're doing, both of you on Lyra. Well, thank you both, and look forward to what's coming next.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you, Cody. Bye bye.
Thanks, everyone.